Hey, what's up, guys? So I know we're all trying to get our USPSA on, trying to get back into the swing of things. I know PCC Nationals is a big one for me. It's coming up at the end of June, and not a lot of ranges are open, so everyone's kind of like, hey, how can I train? How can I train? So I have basically a thought process to training. I've been training people since 2008 in tactics and medicine, things like that. And the groups that I used to work for have kind of an asymmetric kind of thinking about it. And in one of those places, we have something called the threshold of failure. So the threshold of failure, imagine individual skill sets is on the left side with simplicity, and then complex tasks on the far right for complexity. So a 1 and a 10. Individual skill sets, complex tasks. Now everyone has their innate threshold of failure. Let's just say for the sake of argument, I'm a 5. I can handle a couple of complex tasks, individual skill sets, depending on the complexity, and then how you ramp those things up is with stressors. Mostly time is the big stressor. Time, and then accuracy is another one. But I'll use the example of a reload. So if I'm just standing here, dumping a reload, and I take 5 seconds, right? That's not a complex task because it's a individual skill set, one item, and I have unlimited time. So it's not really that stressful. So I'm not really worried about it. I'm not putting those internal stressors on myself. Now let's say I want to do multiple things. So I want to draw, that's 1, individual skill set, shoot 2, reload, shoot 2. Now I've added complexity to that skill set. That being said, so I'm at a 5, right? That's my threshold of failure. That's how much stress I can handle with an environmental, and still achieve tasks. So with that stress level, let's say I can do a draw and get 2 rounds off and hit A's in 2 seconds. All right, but I decide, hey, I want to make that 1.5 seconds. Now since I'm adding pressure with that time, as I draw, I get it off in 1.5 seconds, but I now have an alpha Charlie, so something's starting to sacrifice. So how can we get to that 1.5 seconds with 2 alphas? Well, if the 1.5 seconds with 2 alphas is a 10 to 10 for me, and I'm at a 5 to 10, well, then how do you bring that up? So a principle called scaffolding. I'm going to train at a 6. So what would a 6 be in the threshold of failure? So now I'm going to draw, I'm going to shoot 2, and in 2 seconds instead of 3 seconds, or let's do 1.8 seconds. 1.8 seconds. And once I've mastered that, I'm good at it. I've built those, neuromuscular connections, and I bang it out. Well, now I've successfully reached that target, so now I stack that down. Now I'm 1.6, then I'm in my target zone. So that is a concept of how we do it, but what happens physically. So let's say I'm training, right? There's level of competence when we train. So I'm a picture guy, so I'll show you guys a picture. I'll put an image in here, but so here's your 4 dynamics of competence. So first thing is unconscious incompetence. So you're unaware of the skill and the lack of proficiency you have. So the example I use reloads a lot because it's a pretty, it looks easy, but it's actually kind of complex. So we know if we grab the gun and we pull it out of a holster, we're going to be able to draw a weapon system, right? So now we're trying to build neuromuscular connection in our arm. We're trying to build a reflex arc. That being said, everything that we do with our neuromuscular system runs off a highway of nerves, pretty much, electrons. And as we do things over and over and over, we're reinforcing that neuron chain, right? Going down our afferent and efferent nerves, and we're reinforcing that highway. It's getting extra myelination, it's getting faster, it's getting more refined. Think of it this way, like fighters, professional fighters. Like when they completely zone out or they're in the moment in the fight, if somebody shoots a punch at them, they immediately throw a counter punch because they have a reflex arc kind of built in for that. It's a trained thing and known. So unconscious incompetence, I should say. No idea what you're doing. You're thinking about, like, I got to draw a gun. You don't really know how you're going to do it. Next comes conscious incompetence. So that's when somebody tells you, hey, in order to draw your gun, you want to get a good grip on the tang of the weapon system. You want to breach your holster. You want to mate your hands. You want to press out while maintaining your sights and squeeze off one round with good trigger control. So you know what you should do, but your body doesn't know how to do it. Next is the unconscious competence. The conscious competence. The words are so similar, I fuck it up. What is it? But conscious competence. So that's saying, while I'm thinking about it, I'm able to perfect it. So I still have to think about it, but I have to go through the steps. Okay, good high on the tang, moving from the holster, meet my hands up. So now it's one smooth motion, but we have to think about it. We're not really ingrained yet. Now, why is that important? Well, conscious competence and unconscious competence, that's that threshold of failure that we talked about. So unconscious competence is performing a skill automatic. So that is, I'm trained at that level. There's an old saying that we used to throw around in the military is, you never rise to the occasion, you fall to your highest level of training. That's unconscious competence. saying that if I know I'm in a firefight, if I hear that, the worst sound of combat, click, I know immediately I'm going to my reload. That is a trained reflex arc now. It is just in my head, even on autopilot with 3 hours of sleep, no food for 2 days and dehydrated, I can bang that reload every single time. So that is the level of efficiency that you see some of these grandmasters and world champions getting at, is they've trained it. Like JJ talks about, he does 20 to 30 minutes of reloads a night, where he just sits there and just banging reloads. That is reinforcing that neuron arc. There's actually something I want to talk about that too. So in this image, it's another graphical example of, you know, unconscious competence, conscious incompetence, conscious competence, and then unconscious competence. Now, if you look up here, this level of mastery, right? These are your world champions. Now, complacency. So let's say JJ wins, you know, back-to-back world titles, takes a year off shooting, he doesn't train anymore. Well, now his skills are starting to degrade. They're starting to atrophy. Now, they're atrophying because he's not doing them anymore. Those neurons and muscle tissue are just like, you know, you had a 500-pound deadlift, you stopped deadlifting for a year, you're not getting 500 pounds again, right? Those muscles weren't needed, those neurons weren't needed, so they started to atrophy a little bit. Not to say you can't get them back, but, you know, you have to work out to maintain what you have. Now, what can we do for ourselves to get to this level? So we need to set SMART goals. And SMART is an acronym. It means specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and then time-related or timely. So specific, I want to get my draw to 1 second. All right, is that measurable? Yeah, the measure is I have a good purchase on my weapon system, less than 1 second. Attainable, is that attainable for you? For me, as of right now, no, I can't get a 1 second draw. It'd be better for me to program and be like, hey, I want a 1.2 second draw. That way I can bring it down and I still have a good, consistent draw of 1.2 seconds. Realistic, yeah, I mean, if we're not hitting those goals, it's really important that we do some self-assessment, because for me, for example, I'm probably never going to be a world champion in shooting sports. I'll probably get top 10 in the GM region if I keep training, but I'm probably not going to beat Max Leograndes in PCC. That dude's a fucking demon. Then time-related or timely. So I want to set parameters, that way I have to do it in a certain amount of time if I give myself. So, hey, I want to hit a 1 second draw or 1.2 second draw, and I want to do that in 1 month. So for 4 weeks, I'm training. If I can't hit it in 4 weeks, I can adjust from there. But I want to set micro goals to set myself up for larger goals. If you set too large of a goal, like I want to win PCC Nationals in 1 year, you're going to fail. And unless you're like God's gift to shooting, if you don't perform that well, now you've crushed your confidence and you're not really interested anymore. There's a bunch of people about sports psychology that'll kind of go into that. Excuse me. But set attainable goals, build your confidence, ramp yourself up. Now, I'm going over some of this stuff a lot. I've got PowerPoints on the threshold of failure. That's something I've really trained a lot. Asymmetric warfare group, I got some stuff from those guys. My buddy Nate. That's what they do. Like they look at things differently. They use a sports psychology model as opposed to like the standard army doctrine of like, I'm going to slam my face into a wall until the wall moves. Like, it doesn't really work that way. So let's go over an example. So got my open gun, clear. So for me, like, going into pistol from rifle shooting has been kind of challenging. I have to put a lot more effort into pistol shooting than I do rifle shooting. So what do I need to do? Like, I start off with my warm-up drills. You know, just, okay, dumping a mag in, watching TV, dumping a mag in, watch TV, dumping a mag in, and then I don't have my belt on me, but as I start to speed up, that's when I add those stressors of I'll add the timer box. All right, 1.2 second reload, back on, things like that. So when we think about our goal setting and how do we approach our training, the threshold of failure is an individual thing. Now, we can use scaffolding. Like my buddy Grady, he's a PCC shooter, he's a GM. He's slightly faster than I am. Usually beats me by 20, 30 points in a match. But I can use him because he's a 6, I'm a 5. We can train together, and then when I catch up to him as a 6, he goes forward as 7. So you use that scaffolding principle so you each kind of can go up a little bit more, a little bit faster. But if we were to use that threshold of failure in everything that we do, we want to do it the same principle as working out, right? Let's say you can bench 225, that's your max. But we don't want to bench 225 every single time because, I mean, you're 1 rep max and you're not really growing, you're just hurting yourself. So I'll break it down, I'll do reps at 200, and eventually 200 gets easy so that I go up and up and up. Same kind of principle. Whereas I'll set up an array, like we talked about with 1 paper, 1 popper steel, and another paper. And my goal is to get 2 steel, 2 all alphas. I want to get that drill done in 5 seconds. So now I start hitting it. I got it in 4.5 seconds, all alphas. Sweet. So now I adjust my thing, I'll add complexity to it. Now I want to do 2, shoot 2, and throw a reload in it. So as I'm adding complexity, I'm adding individual skill sets to my task to make it a little bit more complex to myself, and I'm adding stressors to that. How our body responds to stress is idiopathic, means it's dependent to you. But needless to say, like, everybody has the same kind of response to stress. It's a sympathetic nerve arc. So once your heart rate gets above 140, now you have a sympathetic response. It takes epinephrine to keep your heart rate above that. It basically retards the parasympathetic nervous system, which is the vagus nerve that's on the heart. I mean, just the gist of it is you've got epinephrine flowing to your body. That's a fight or flight response. So what happens to that physiologically? Well, our vision gets a little narrowed. We start to sweat a little bit, get diaphoretic. We lose blood flow to our fine motor skills. So this right here, this is a fine motor skill. So I've got gorilla hands. So this fine motor skill now goes out the window. So now instead of having a nice finger to bullet tip going for reload, I've now got freaking lobster claws and I'm trying to slam a reload in. That's kind of the same principle. Like, all the blood's flooding into our large muscle bellies. We're getting ready to, you know, fight a tiger or something. So it's important that you understand the physiological effects of this. Can you train for that? Absolutely. So one of the guys that I used to shoot with has a 5-box drill. So I'm basically just running box to box. You know, hyperventilating air. I'm just heaving air in and out of my chest. My heart rate's at, like, you know, 150, 160, but I'm still able to perform at that level. So now whenever I go to a match and I'm, you know, 130, 140 because the timer just went off, it's like nothing to me. So this is going to be part 1 of the series. I'm going to be explaining kind of the physiological effects of stress and how we can mitigate that. Also, what we can do to train with stress. Stress inoculation is the term that we use. So how can we stress inoculate our body? If you guys, I post some stuff on my Instagram page as well. It's at Unicorn Medic Shoots. Check that out. I have a match tomorrow. I'm kind of going to break it down and show, like, a couple of the failure points. And I'm really going to start critiquing my own stuff as an example and show you guys, as you watch your match videos, how can you pick them apart, how can you make achievements and things like that. And I'll kind of give some videos on what you can do training-wise, because for me, like, how do you train movement? Well, you can do X, Y, Z. Unless you're fortunate enough or have the time and the money to take a class with some really, really great shooters like Max Michel, JJ, Lee, or what is it, Maxi Grandis, you're not really going to get, like, first-hand knowledge on how to get these things done. And there's not too many people that have access to, like, a GM that's willing to just sit down and teach them. So, but I'll be doing some videos on movement, things like that, so you guys can kind of see how a monkey runs, I guess. But we'll dig that down, parts 2, 3, and 4, kind of do stress modulation, and then some drills that I use to kind of warm up before I get to my training and warm up before a match. If you guys have any questions, hit me up on my YouTube. I do have one other 508 Tango in, but I think I'm going to raffle it out. I've had so many people asking about it that it's just not fair to just pick somebody, so I'm going to do a raffle on that. If you guys are interested, shoot me a message on my Instagram, and we'll get that started. All right, thanks, guys. Have a good one.